Hello again, it's Locknoob, and um, you may have seen a few videos recently where I've been messing around with sort of different materials for pick handles. So here's some hand-beaten brass tubing, and that's beaten around I think it's a 25 thousandths Sparrows short hook. Really nice. I like the sort of hand-beaten look. I could have ground it down a bit further and made it kind of very smooth both sides, but I kind of like it. It's rugged, and when it tarnishes up, it's going to look fantastic. I've also been experimenting with things like lollipop sticks. So here's one lollipop stick handle on a bypass tool which I made, and this is basically just JB welded on with a little bit of varnish on the handle as well, and really light, very comfortable, nice and rigid, and not too thick actually. And this is only gently sanded, so the overall thickness of this is, well, where's my calipers, and then we'll have a look, won't we? Let's do it in millimeters, just because we can. Trying to zero my calipers, which anyway. So let's have a look at that. Okay, so about 4.5 millimeters there, so less than half a centimeter, but not too bad. So that's two sort of materials which I like. Now, the thing is, I also like Sparrows profiles, and this is a short hook in 15 thousandths, very, very, very thin, and whilst it's okay, that it's and I quite like a little bit of flex in the handle. This is like really flexible. Then I was thinking, what do I like? What's my favourite handle? And actually, do you know what? I really like Peterson handles. I think the thickness, it's got a little bit of flex, not too much, a little bit of flex, but not too much, and they're light, and you know, they're also sort of the right size in terms of dimensions. I just find that if I'm doing a lot of picking, my hands don't fatigue. So let's measure this up. So it's more or less about just over 4 millimeters in one dimension, and then what are we? About 12 and a half millimeters in the other direction. And I just find that the handles are really nice, and I think they're somewhere around 8.5 centimeters long. Now, I've always said, apart from the gem, which I adore, I love the Peterson gem, I've always sort of wanted to have sort of Peterson style handles on Sparrows products. And looking at ranges of materials, well, lollipop stick handles sort of work, but they're maybe a little bit thin. Brass tubing is good, but it's a bit heavy. Aluminium is nice, but it's hard to work with because it clogs up your grinding tools and your files. So I had a little bit of a think about it overnight one day, and then I thought, well, do you know what? I wonder if cable ties would work. And you might think, well, cable ties, aren't they quite small? Well, usually they are, but that you can also buy them. It keeps going really long, and this is actually not the biggest one you can get. So the dimensions of this, in terms of its width, is about 12.5, and it's got a nice rounded edge. And if I cut off a couple of lengths, so I've taken one and chopped it. Bear in mind, these you can get them a metre long. I've got like half a metre lengths, and you see this is a bit shorter. Hard to get it all on camera at the same time. But I've cut some lengths off. I think these are about 8.5, 9 centimetre lengths. And if I put them together, you can see that would be quite nice, wouldn't it? And then I've put the pick in the middle, and the where the little grooves are in here. Let's have a look. There we go. We'll put that together, and bear in mind I'll put some epoxy in between. Let's see what the overall thickness would be there as well. So roughly speaking, about, yeah, just trying to get it to be stable. Yeah, so about 4.37, 4.4. Look at the Peterson again. 4.13, so it's ever so slightly thicker, but not by much. So I'm thinking, so put them together like that. If I can round these off and maybe just So I'll round them off, and then I'll probably just run a flame over the edges to make them round, then glue them on. I wonder if I can actually have a really nice, light, strong nylon, I think they're made of nylon, handle, and which would possibly be a good substitute for these Peterson handles. And what I thought is, if I put them this way round, the epoxy will be able to, I'll rough this pick up, the epoxy will be able to grip on to this kind of ratchet strip here, and provide a nice sort of purchase for the glue. And you can see that these Sparrows picks actually sit very nicely in there. Now, there's a couple of things I thought about. I could probably file a groove down, file these down a little bit. That wouldn't take too long, but I want something quick, you know. And I don't mind that, that you know, there'll be a separation between the two sides, because I'll just fill in that with the JB weld and look like a little grey strip. But overall, it should be very, very comfortable, very warm, and quite strong once the epoxy dries. I was thinking about whether you can actually do it the other way around, like that, and then that would provide some something akin to this kind of cross hatching. But I might try that one day. But I actually quite like the smooth side, so I'm just going to go with that. Okay, so let me. So what I'll do is I will file these round, epoxy these together onto this pick, let it dry overnight, and I'll come back and I'll show you what it looks like and give you some updates on how strong it feels and all the rest of it. Okay, see you in a minute. So here we are. This is the final kind of set handle now. The JB weld I put between the pick and the little slices of that cable tie has had a full 24-hour cure, and I have to say it's really light. If I was to do this again, I think I'll try to just bevel off these edges a little more, but other than that, it feels great. It's actually very light, very well balanced. This is almost full tang. The pick goes to about half a centimetre from the end, so about there, and I thought that I would put the pick in so that where on the Sparrows pick it naturally has a shoulder, that's literally ends at the points where the pick starts. So I just ran a lighter across the tops of these, but you know, I think maybe some 2000 grit sandpaper would have a good effect too. In terms of rigidity, it's really quite strong. I think you could probably bend it if you wanted to, but it's pretty tough. Now, I tried to make something akin to the Peterson handles, and in terms of thickness, if I put side by side, I think you'll agree that I did quite well there. Made these a little bit longer just because the tang on the Sparrows is a tiny bit longer. Plus, actually, it's quite nice to have it a tiny bit longer just because my hands are, you know, I wouldn't say massive, but I find sometimes with the Peterson it's a little bit short. Not a big deal, but this actually being a tiny bit longer is a good thing for me. And these are 15,000, so this is very, very whippy. So having a handle on this, just I think it gives it a bit more support, and it's a lot more comfortable. So I've gone from you know, a very, very big piece of cable tie. You can see the kind of the end here. Cut that down into I think 8.5 or 9 centimeter strips. I can't remember exactly. Two of those JB welded together, then compressed between two lolly sticks actually to give it a nice flat finish, and because the edges are sort of naturally rounded, as this product is already, didn't need to do any finishing at all. So yeah, I absolutely love this, and I genuinely will be making more pick handles out of this material. Might even make sort of the edges a bit neater. If you want to know how I got this round edge, it's literally a Dremel with a sanding disc at about 1/3 to a half speed, and just slowly take it off, and then just file the edges a little bit to take off any burrs, and then just heat on a little flame to get rid of any kind of minor imperfections. But that's just my technique. I'm going to practice a bit more on it, but I really like this, and I really like the fact that it's not too thick, like some handles. It really is just like my favourite pick thicknesses, the Peterson. Maybe a tiny bit thicker. What do you think? Do you think it's a little bit thicker? Probably, but that's not a bad thing. We're talking about 0.5 millimetre, if anything. So there you go. That is, I think, a very successful cable tie pick handle. And I'd really like to know what you think in the comments. Comment below, please. And I'll see you next time.